And I got to say, in Sharkwater, just that image of these rooftops, these large area rooftops covered in these fins was incredible. And the guys are kicking them off after they realized that you were filming it. That must have been, in addition to the cutting of the fins actually happening, two of the most shocking things that I discovered in that movie, and it must have had a big impact on your viewers.
Yeah. And there's something about having a camera between you and what you're doing that really distances you emotionally and makes sure you're not really afraid of something when you're filming it and looking it through that, because you're so focused on getting the shot and making sure it's recorded well that you don't really worry, am I in trouble? Are these guys actually coming after me or whatever? But the whole Costa Rican journey I actually just got a phone call today. Richard Branson is flying to Costa Rica tomorrow to sign an agreement that bans the importation of all shark fins into Costa Rica because of what happened in Sharkwater and because of what happened. Yeah, thank you. And because of what happened in Sharkwater, that incident in 2002. Costa Rica reissued an arrest warrant for Paul Watson, who was the captain of the boat, which technically collided with the Veradero. So Paul Watson was the one ultimately responsible for what we got up to.
Invited by the president of Costa Rica to come there, and then the country ends up turning against him.
Yeah, and the country ends up turning against them, and we ended up sort of skipping trial and not actually going through the whole judicial process in Costa Rica. And so because of that, Paul Watson was arrested in Germany a couple months ago and is now an international fugitive who can't really touch down in any major port because there's an Interpol red list arrest warrant out for him because of this 10 years ago. So it sort of shows you the power that some of these industries have. I mean, shark finning is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and most of it's on the black market. When we released Sharkwater, there were 16 countries that had banned shark finning. Now there's more than 100 countries that have banned shark finning. So most of the shark fin that moves around the world happens on the black market, and it's still a multi-billion-dollar a year industry, so that's a lot of money.
So at some point, obviously Sea Shepherd kind of got you into it, but at some point you leapfrogged them. And there's a strange sequence of events here that were, at one point, you're in hospital battling flesh-eating disease and thinking you're going to lose your leg, and then being upset because the Sea Shepherd had moved on and you were kind of missing your ride to the next adventure. And then the next thing you know, you're cured, you're on a plane, you're in the Galapagos, and you have permits, and you're filming, you got your own boat and crew, and Sea Shepherd can't get there and can't get their permits and end up just kind of going away and doing their own thing. That was incredible that you're just able to do all of this stuff I'll emphasize, 22, 23 years old, to have the resourcefulness to do that. Did you impress yourself when you're doing all that? Because certainly I was impressed. As a 22-year-old, I can tell you with certainty that I had a hard time waking up just to go to exams, let alone trying to charter a boat and get a crew and negotiate and figure out how to get permits to do what you wanted to do. You were purely driven.
I think it was just the mission that I was on, really. Like, it's not out of some great courage or anything. I saw that I had an opportunity to save sharks, and so I jumped in with both feet. And, going to bat to try to save something that you love, you're going to do better at that than you would be on exams, for example.
Yeah.
And
I didn't do that bad, but had a hard time waking up.
And also because I borrowed so much money in the beginning, and because I got in so over my head right away, I had no option other than to succeed, right? It was make or break it, right? So like when I'm in the hospital and I think I'm going to lose my leg, the leg didn't matter. What mattered was, I was $200,000 in debt and I had no shark movie yet. Right? This is I was 22. This is my one big shot at changing the world, and my one shot at making a jump up in industry from photographer to filmmaker. And so there was never, any option ever of giving up or of not figuring it out. It was, we're going to figure this out. I'm not coming back till I've got a documentary, and that's that.
So if you could have sold your leg for $200,000, you would have been happy?
I don't know if I would have been swimming in circles. But.
Okay. Support from parents and friends, serendipity, and just good old-fashioned research and dogged determination. What's the balance there in terms of how you got this done? Because Another thing I was amazed at is the support that you got from your parents. I don't know to what degree it was financial, but just their willingness to indulge you at an early age and just kind of be supportive throughout this process. But also on the serendipity part, you always seem to kind of find yourself in a situation. I don't know if that's because you just opened yourself up to those possibilities and you didn't lock yourself into a plan, or things just kind of fell into place from the mysteries of the universe.
Yes. My parents, ever since I was a kid, have had this philosophy of nurturing my passion, whatever it was. So, I collected light bulbs as a kid, passionately, and had a light bulb collection that fueled my parents' house till I was 16. Collected screwdrivers, loved to pull things apart and put them back together. And reptiles and snakes, and because I wanted these giant, amazing animals. My sister had all the cute and fuzzy animals, so it took me a long time to sort of negotiate bringing in, the predators into the house, which could potentially eat the other things that we had as pets. But it was important to them because I loved that so much for them to nurture it, and I don't know what taught them that, but from very early on, they were always nurturing whatever passion it was, or they saw something in me that was worth nurturing. And then as I grew older, an enormous amount of support from my parents. I would not be here, of course, they made me. But the amount of support they gave me, when I wanted to take this jump in a career, when I wanted to, bail on university after 3 years instead of 4 years, when I wanted to, to borrow money to buy my first underwater camera, they were always there saying, go for it, you can do it. There's no reason why you can't do it. And I think they sort of taught me from the time I was a kid, like if somebody can do that, there's no reason why it can't be you. If somebody can do a handstand, you can do a handstand. If somebody can be a wildlife photographer, it can be you. There's no reason why not. So when I went to go, get this movie off the ground, they were like, yeah, we're going to help you, whatever we need to do. And so they, got me in front of Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers gave me $10,000. And then they got me in front of Universal Studios, and Universal Studios gave me some money, and they got me in front of Kellogg's, and all of a sudden I'm wearing Kellogg's T-shirts in the movie, and they got me in front of Kryptonite, the bike lot company. So there's Kryptonite all over the movie, and Vector cereal, and we had the whole Sea Shepherd boat was full of caught beverages, those like fake Coke drinks and stuff. So they were
uniquely Canadian drink too, right?
so yeah, they were there from the get-go and hugely supportive, but also like.
But they were in the business, right? So that's what helped you. They're in the media business, so they had all these connections. So that was quite fortunate in terms of helping you make this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in terms of planning, like I've never been very good at planning. And I've always been so understaffed that planning has been the part I've done the least of. I just sort of jump and then figure, in the process of jumping, something good will happen. And I was talking to a friend the other day about the footage we had for this movie, and he kept saying, I wish we had this footage, or I wish you had this and this and this. And it was always my beliefs with it, what I had was exactly what I needed. And that, if I was missing something, it would just push my art form a little further to make it work with what happened. And when I was a wildlife photographer, the cameras broke all the time. And underwater, you're dealing with strobes that have to sync the amount of light they're giving the camera lens and the time they give those camera lens for underwater in a salty environment where stuff leaks all the time. So probably a third of the time I was an underwater photographer, stuff didn't work. And when stuff doesn't work underwater, you've got to figure out other ways around it. And that sort of taught me all the time, I'll have to learn how to shoot with one strobe, or I'll have to learn how to shoot with a little strobe, or with just a flashlight, or with just black and white infrared film. And all those shoots that happened because of something potentially negative became some of my best shoots, and the stuff that gave me, more recognition because it was different. And so very much like I don't plan at all. And even on this last movie on Revolution, we thought we had $5 million for Revolution at one point, and then the movie got a little radical in our funder's eyes, and the money dropped to $150,000 overnight. And with $150,000, I knew I could get there. We were traveling with 11 people and 3D cameras, and it was going to be a 3D IMAX movie, and everything was going to be great. And we had a plan. We knew exactly where we were going to be for the exact amount of time, and it was working, but it was cumbersome, and it didn't feel right. And everywhere we went, we had all these people, and there were people checking the dollars and checking how much everything we spent, and it sort of sucked. So with $150,000 and all of a sudden freed from the bureaucracy of these corporations, I bought a bunch of plane tickets and 2 cameras, and I left for like a year and just, flew by the seat of my pants kind of thing. And I went to all the wrong places at all the wrong times. Like I was in Madagascar in monsoon season, and everywhere I went, I only had 2 days because the monsoon kept catching up with us. We have to get on another plane and then avoid the monsoon and then avoid the monsoon. And I was covered in leeches for weeks.
There must be some freedom, like a nice feeling that you can be that flexible and just hop on and off planes and meet new people and bring them into your adventure and your project. It seemed like you always had a network of people who could fulfill certain roles, or you happen to be speaking. You must be a good networker, even though in the book you say you don't like doing the networking things. You always seem to have somebody in that network that you could pull in and help you out.
I don't know if it's that I'm a good networker. I think it's...
Was that the serendipity thing? These people just kind of came into your life at a good time?
Yes, the serendipity is huge. I mean, the world just, things work out for me. And I don't mean to sound weird in any way, but maybe it is. But things do work out. And everything that I did perceive to be a negative in the beginning became a beautiful positive in the end. So anything that sort of sucks in the time being, you just have to wait a little bit and then see the beautiful positive side. Like, I thought almost losing my leg was a terrible thing. And then, it gave me the scene of the movie, which made Sharkwater more personal and more successful. So it became a beautiful positive. And then I thought dengue fever, West Nile virus, and tuberculosis were bad things. But, coming through those, they gave me the perspective and the time to think and the time on my back to figure out, my philosophies on sharks and the way of telling this story. And so I think serendipity is a big part of it. But also, as soon as I tried to save something, it was like there was a fundamental shift in my energy or in the people's energy around me that I started working for good. And as soon as I started working for good, everybody wanted to help me. And people were giving me free stuff. People were offering, I'll come carry your gear, I'll edit your movie, I'll do this. And so now we have a whole army of people that want to help us. Because we're saving things. We're saving the ecosystems we depend on for survival. We're saving some of the oldest, most amazing predators the planet has. And people want to be a part of that, want to be a part of working for good. So I think, if any of you are considering new careers or job changes, or you're young and thinking about a way of, being in this world, working for good gives you an enormous amount of power and back behind you.
Okay, so Sharkwater got made. It was a success, won lots of awards. You traveled around, you showed it. It was, I loved the movie. But after you kind of went through that the networking and the events and showings and stuff, you felt that it wasn't enough and that you had to take it to the next level, and that's what led to the decision to make Revolution. So explain that transition and where that got you in terms of steps to making that movie, and I guess comparing it to Sharkwater, because a comparison I like to make is the difference between climate change and fighting acid rain, right? One is a far more complex issue. So making a movie about saving sharks and suddenly jumping to saving humanity and dealing with issues like climate change, that's a big step. So how did you tackle that?
So when I came back from the first shoot for Sharkwater, I'm 22. I'm $300,000 in debt. I've got dengue fever, West Nile virus, and tuberculosis. And as soon as I get back to Canada, I sort of get dumped by my girlfriend and have to move back in with my parents for the first time in 4 years. So, this was the lowest of the low. And I have no idea how to make a movie. I've got 137 high-definition tapes in a giant waterproof case. And I can't even afford the tape player to play the tapes because it's $100,000. And renting one of these tape players for a day is $2,500. So I've got this crazy story of what happened to me, arrests and attempted murder and machine guns and mafia rings, and I can't even see it, And I don't even know how to make movies, and I don't have any friends that know how to make movies. So I'm trying to figure out what to do, and I start going to these wildlife film festivals, and I go through this process of becoming an introvert, like a fish nerd who spends 8 months of the year hanging out underwater with fish, to having to ruck up to these studio executives and say, "Hey, I'm Rob. I'm trying to make a movie to save sharks. Can you help me?" And I go to some of the biggest wildlife film festivals in the world. One's in Bristol, England. One's in Montana. And I meet all these people. And I get places where they like me or they like my footage. But after a year, we get turned down by absolutely everybody. Everybody said no, and they said no primarily because we exist to put bums in seats. We don't exist to care about conservation. We have no priority, no obligation to tell anyone that anything's bad is happening on the planet. And two, we sell sharks as dangerous, and people like that. And we don't want to make a movie that portrays them in a different way. So it seemed like all hope was lost for me. And I went to the last film festival. And this is another one of these serendipitous things. One of these last film festivals. I was in Canada. It was cold, and I said, if I can't get the movie off the ground at this film festival, I'm moving to Australia. So I go to the last film festival, get turned down by everybody, but I meet David Hannon, who is Australia's most prolific underwater cameraman. And he sees my presentation because I was up in front of everybody showing them my footage, saying, this is what I'm up to. And he says, I can't help you make Sharkwater, but I'll offer you a job. Well, why don't you come and shoot this movie I'm doing for Discovery Channel on starfish? Starfish. So.
That's a step
I want
down
to
the
shoot sharks. What are you talking
chain.
about? Starfish. So I say sure, under the one deal that I get to keep all the footage that I shoot to use in my own movies, thinking that if I get all this time underwater, maybe I can start getting some more footage, and this will add to my portfolio or help me make Sharkwater. So I shoot with him. I give up totally on Sharkwater, put it on a shelf, move to Australia, shoot with him for basically a year on this type of starfish, the crown of thorns starfish, whose populations were normally so small, but because of runoff from industry and agriculture, the babies were surviving at 10,000 times their natural rate, and these things eat coral. They're giant, poisonous, alien-looking things that if you even mutilate them, each little part that breaks off will grow into its own starfish. And if you threaten them or you try to put them in or bring them up onto the boat, they spontaneously spawn. And I'll have 100% fertilization rates. So the only way to kill them, which we filmed, was people with back injector guns that were injecting each arm of these starfish with the same kind of acid that the starfish excretes itself. That was the only way you could kill it. We filmed these starfish, which were basically eating the Great Barrier Reef. And then, I realized after shooting this Australian scene for a year that I finally had enough beautiful footage that maybe I could make Sharkwater myself, and maybe I didn't need to figure out how to find all these people that make movies. Maybe I could just make it myself. And then we started putting the movie together, and sort of the movie came out, and the rest is history. But at the movie premiere of Sharkwater, which was 4 years later in Hong Kong, right when we were about to get the movie seen by 120 million people, the pinnacle of my career, a woman in the audience puts up her hand and says, "Why would you stop us from eating shark fin soup if, according to the United Nations, all the world's fisheries will have collapsed by 2048 anyways?" Citing a study done by Dalhousie University in Halifax, stating that if current fishing trends continue, we'll have wiped out all the world's fisheries by 2048. And this was a problem Sharkwater didn't even begin to address. The shark thing was easy. You could point a finger in a direction and say, stop eating shark fin soup and we can save these animals, but all of a sudden we're going to wipe out all the world's fish. So I really didn't know what to do, and it sort of crushed my world, and I spent literally 10 years thinking this is how I was going to have an impact on the planet, and this was the most important thing I could do. And I really didn't know what to do, but I was north of Australia, north of the biggest marine park in the world, and I thought, I've got to, it's been 4 years since I've been underwater, and for a fish kid like me, that's a long time to spend dry. So I thought, I'll go back to Australia, I'll meet up with Dave Hannon, my buddy, and make a plan and figure out how to address this gigantic issue. And when I arrived in Australia, Dave Hannon didn't take me underwater. He said, you've got to come meet Charlie Varon, you've got to meet the godfather of coral, because things have changed. And he took me to Charlie Varon, who's the premier coral reef scientist in the world. He's named at least 25% of all the world's coral species. And Charlie said, it's not overfishing that's the problem, it's ocean acidification. Most of the carbon dioxide we put into the atmosphere gets absorbed by the oceans, making the oceans 30% more acidic than they were 100 years ago. And in an increasing acidic environment, anything in the ocean that builds skeletons or shells can't make skeletons and shells any longer. And this is everything in the oceans except jellyfish and squid, basically. So this is coral, this is fish, this is phytoplankton, which gives us more than half of the oxygen in the air that we breathe. And they said phytoplankton in the oceans has already dropped 40% in 50 years. He said 2/3 of the world's coral is expected to be gone in the next 10 years. 90% of the coral in the Caribbean is already gone. And 38% of the Great Barrier Reef coral cover has been lost in 25 years. So all of a sudden I was smashed with the biggest environmental issue humanity's ever faced. And they also said that 4 out of the 5 mass extinctions that have happened in the last 500 million years that have wiped most life off the face of the planet have been caused by ocean acidification. And we're now causing a change in ocean acidification faster than happened in any of those extinctions.